Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Caffeine and Sensu Beans podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Chi Ween. Chi, how you doing?
What's up, yo? I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Chilling.
that's
Just
good.
wrapping up the break for me. So
I know, huh?
going back to the grind now this week.
So how's it? If you guys don't know, Chi Ween is a teacher. So, um, how's this whole thing kind of, working for you? Like, are you going back to school, back to teaching, online teaching? How is
Yeah.
this whole thing?
No, we're going back to online teaching. The older kids, I think we're looking at a year that we're just gonna stay on computers for the rest of the year.
Dude,
So
that sucks,
for,
man.
for my seniors, it's they're not getting the senior experience. But
Yeah.
hey, man, you know what? At the end of the day, it's unfortunate, but that's just where we're at. Like I'd rather stay here than go back to school. To be honest with you, I'm not trying to get killed by this thing, and I love my kids, but at the same time, I've seen them, and I know that not all of them wash their hands, and that's just the hard reality of where we're at. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the biggest lessons you learn when you're a teenager: hygiene.
Yeah, for sure.
You know
At
what I'm
that
saying?
age,
So
you just like,
yeah, I love them, man, but I don't know if we could trust them to take care of these things that they say that we need to take care of.
I,
But,
and I think like you would be fine, but then the thing with me is like if you were to get it and then you give it off to someone else like unknowingly, and then that person has like a really hard time with it, that would suck. I think that would suck a lot. Yeah, man, I feel like the reason I say it kind of sucks, and obviously maybe you know more about this than I do, because it's been years since I was in high school. Um, I feel like people need that social connection, especially at that age. Like you kind of you're like forming yourself, and like you part of like being a part of the real world is like having that social like understanding social cues, like how to move in like society. Because like if you were to just stay in your house the whole day for the rest of your life, you would lose some of those social skills, I think. And then like when you would go out to the world, you would feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, everyone else already feels uncomfortable, but at least you've mingled, like you've interacted, you've developed friends, like you have a social circle. But then like here it's difficult, they're in the room. Sometimes in more extreme cases, some people can get depressed, but like maybe they need that social interaction because at home it's not a good situation. I don't know. So yeah, it's tough, I'm sure. Like I don't know, are you finding it difficult, like maintaining your students engaged?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's like, I think it's really interesting because I think like I I don't necessarily really believe in schools, yet I'm a teacher, and I think that that's it's a contradiction, and it's one that I have to come to peace with. Still, I try to come to peace with it, but I think when I think about schools, like they've never have ever addressed what actually happens in young people's lives. So when something like this happens, it just gets exacerbated, like it just gets humongous, right? And
Right.
it gets so big that kids' problems really get put on blast. And I think when you think about some of my kids, like it's just like they have to go work, they have to go take care of their siblings while they're still supposed to be in class, or like they're supposed to do all these other things while still maintaining some sort of like level of like school. And then to me, I'm like, okay, well then school's adding an extra pressure that may or may not be actually needed, in my humble opinion. And I think parents want the kids back to school, but at the same time, it's like, I think if anything is showing that schools, we're kind of babysitters for capitalism in many ways, because they're workers. Parents are workers, and they need us to take care of their children while they go work. And we like to paint it as like the kids are gonna go and learn, but I don't know how true that is, because we're right now talking about, oh, kids are supposed to be gonna be like, they're gonna be behind and like learning all this stuff, and they're like mentally not progressing and like blah blah blah. But it's like, if you work at the school that I work at, we've been behind. and you never cared. But it's because those kids that are not supposed to be behind, it's because those kids are falling behind. That's when it's a problem. But if you go to my school, man, my school has been like this for a minute. We've
So
been behind,
do you feel
you know?
like those so you feel like you like school does help, but like those kids that you're saying are being affected now, like it helps those kids that you were just referencing, but it doesn't help the kids like that you see or that you teach.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay,
because yeah.
so like it's the school that like you're teaching out, or your type of like the school that fits your profile, that's like not getting, you feel, the not just like right resources or right attention, like it's just not the right, it's just not being handled correctly to help these young, young men and women kind of form themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but it's been an issue for I think since the beginning of schools, right? Like a school like the one that I work at, and this is where I used to go. It's like it's been had problems. It's the problems have been there. Like folks have just never paid attention,
Yeah.
and what I'm saying is that like those problems have been there, and it's only becoming a problem in schools when the kids that aren't supposed to fail are starting to fail.
Right.
And even I would argue that they're not really failing, because those are the kids that get to have tutoring and get to have like homeschool, and like they're supposed to have pods, you know what I'm saying? And it's like that conversation has kind of started, right? Like I know that there's some conversations here where I work at where parents are like, well, why don't we have pods and like, a small classroom and blah blah blah. But those are the wealthy kids, right? When you're talking about poorer kids, poor kids can't afford a pod, to
What's
go
a
to a
pod?
pod. Or it's like when teachers are like a small, like it becomes like this really small community of like maybe 5-6 kids, and like you teach just those 5 kids, which I think schools should be like that. I think we should only be teaching 5 or 6 kids. I should not be having to teach over 70 kids. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my workload. Like, and I'm supposed to somehow teach all of them. And like I said, I love them, but it's at the same time, I also know that it's not an environment that actually where you actually learn stuff. I mean, we've talked about this too, right? Of like, does school actually teaches anything? And I don't know. For some, I think it does. It's an escape, and for some, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a very deep conversation like this school. And also everything is interconnected. Like if you have a bad situation at your house, then I don't know, I feel like it can affect how you are in school, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you see kids that are going through it, like they're going through a tough time at their home, like
Yeah.
they're broken homes, and maybe they don't have the best relationship with their parents, and there's stuff that happens there, and then it affects them at school. They can't focus, and then they start to have like, and it's such a like sensitive time, like at that age, because like I said, you're kind of you're you still don't know how to uh like you're still forming yourself, you're still trying to form the way you think, and so you're not a finished product, but you have like things at home that are going on that you would expect someone that's very mature, very well developed to be able to cope with, but these are young people that they still need guidance. And it's like it's hard for them. You can't ask them to be like, oh, you got to deal with this at home, but their parents should be the ones guiding them. And maybe there's an issue there, they have a difficult relationship, and that affects them mentally, and then they go to school and it's hard for them to focus, like I said, and it just like
And then school tells them you got an exam tomorrow on fractions,
right. And then
while that's happening.
yeah,
And then that's where the big disconnect is, right? It's like kids are going through stuff, and then we hit them with, cool, well, you gotta take a big test, or you gotta do this essay, and and that's where I'm like, well, does school actually address it? And and I mean, it shouldn't just be parents teaching kids. I mean, I think that's why we're there. I mean, I think it's a real honor that I get to work with these young people, because in many ways, they've entrusted me to be that person to take care of them. I think what you find in schools, though, is there's a lot of times adults were not ready for that.
Mm,
And I think a lot of us that work in front of children probably shouldn't be in front of children, because we haven't done our work. And that's
for
where it gets
sure.
really tricky, because adults, we don't want to look at our mess. We don't want to look at our stuff, um, if
Yeah.
we looked at our stuff, then we would realize that maybe I shouldn't be in front of these children,
Right.
because I haven't figured out the stuff that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about how I looked at school, like high school in particular. Um, College I felt was different for me. Um, but high school in particular, it makes me think like how I looked at it when back then. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation, And if we ever had like a deep think or something type of podcast, it'd be cool to like spend some time trying to like unpackage this type of stuff, like
Yeah.
go through it. Um,
Yeah.
but I hope that things pan out well for you and your students. I hope. I know 2020 was a moment of in the general sense. I feel like there were a lot of difficulties and challenges. Me personally, I'm in a fortunate position, and I had a lot of blessings come my way. But I'm not oblivious to the fact that obviously 2020 was challenging for a lot of people. And I hope 2021 is a much better year in that regard for the general populace.
Yeah.
And with 2021, you know what I was going to ask you, dude? And before we're going to get into the movie. We are going to get into the movie. But before we jump in, I was going to ask you, since it's the first episode of the year, since it is 2021, it's a new year. Hopefully it's a new vibe. Do you have a 2021 goal sheet or resolutions?
Yeah, I think my biggest goal right now is to stop drinking alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think what?
Go ahead. Nah, go ahead.
What? Oh, is that yours too?
Nah, dude.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, now I can't give this dude a beer.
Oh,
But that's
yeah,
okay.
no,
I
yeah,
respect you.
yeah, man, it's yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think stopping alcohol consumption, I think, is gonna be a big challenge in itself.
For like maybe health purpose, because Chewin's not like an alcoholic, it's not like the dude's on the verge of going to AA. He's it's just probably for like health purposes.
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that's an assumption as well, right? I think it's I think your relationship with alcohol, I think, varies, and I think I may have had a relationship that I don't think that I realized that maybe was more harmful than I thought. So I think I'll leave it at that, and I think that's one of the biggest goals of mine. I think second goal, I think, is to eat healthier. I think it's take care of my body better. I think that's also playing into that too, to just treat my body better.
You're gonna turn 30 this year, dude. In a few months.
30. Yeah. So 30. What about you? Those are my top two.
Yeah, for me, it's obviously we're having a baby. So obviously be a good dad. That's pretty generic. I got some like professional goals, right? Like, certain things I want to do at work. And then I got some, some like schooling. I do a lot of the like online schooling, like certificates, like certifications, to like learn what maybe a new technology is, or just to keep kind of keeping my mind fresh and like learning new things, new skills, so I can
That's dope.
yeah, so I feel like I could be a little more competitive, right? Like if I ever just so my resume looks more competitive. I feel like your resume, and this is just me speaking professionally, like every year it should look a little bit more competitive, right? It should look a little bit better. Um, and if you feel like it's not, then maybe like you're not doing everything you can. You've lost sight of, or you've dropped the ball a little bit. So yeah, professional, I have some professional goals, and then hopefully, if things go well, some personal ones, like have because of the baby's being born, we want to have a house by the time she's 1. So like we're gonna see this year if we can like really hunker down and look at homes and stuff like that. But you know how it is over here, dude. It's like it's fucking
Ridiculous.
insane.
Yeah, it's
wild.
ridiculous. It's wild. The prices are wild.
Yeah.
If it counts for anything, they are dropping somewhat, but
Are
not
they?
not too crazy. Yeah, not too crazy. Nothing to like go crazy about. But I mean, the market is kind of going down.
Right. But that's about it, and then obviously we have some goals for the podcast, like the direction we want to take it in.
Yeah.
I think
hopefully we get the second one off the ground, hopefully we see if we can get this FIFA related one off the ground. But I think that'll be exciting as well, so we can talk about sports and y'all don't have to keep hearing us talk about soccer and FIFA here. And
there's an actual forum.
There's gonna be an actual place to actually talk about that if that's of interest to you. But yeah, that'd be tight. I think to grow it, I think we're actually on pace to get to 2,000 listens faster than maybe the first time. So that's exciting as well.
That's great. So hopefully 2021 is a good year, man. Fingers crossed. You never know. I try to take every day as a blessing, because like I feel like we forget how fleeting life can be, how fragile it can be, and like it's easy to look at the things like you don't have and forget the things you do have. And so yeah, man, I wish everyone that's listening, everyone in general, a good 2021, and let's get into it, dude. Dragon Ball Z, Cooler's return.
Christ, yeah.
Nah.
Right, return of Cooler. Nah. All right, here we go. Let's get into it, boy. Let's hop in. Let me dive in.
The way you said that, hold up, dude. Okay, hold up.
Ooh, okay.
Give me a word to like summarize this movie experience for you.
Say deja vu.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
No, that's already gone. Come on, dude. Okay, I didn't want to use this word, but this is the word that popped up, like, so I have to go with it. But if I go with it, it's gonna give a lot away. But Jedi, all right. So you're like, why Jedi? That doesn't make any sense. That's not even an adjective, and it's not. You're right. But hold up, why deja vu? Then I'm gonna go into why Jedi.
I had major Fusion 13 deja vu flashbacks here.
Really?
Yeah. So I had a lot of that.
See why.
I had a lot of deja vu in regards to many of the things that they tried to do, and I thought the setting, trying to get us back to Frieza, I thought Cooler's like backstory was ridiculous. The minions even more ridiculous. They're like, so I mean, I don't know if I should get into my biggest beef with it, but I'll just say this, that the deja vu also, it just they rehashed a lot of the stuff that they've done. So to me, when I see this film, it's like it's a lot of the stuff that they've done, and the only thing that's different is the Jedi mind tricks. And I guess you would say that happened.
Well, oh, okay. Right off the bat, do you think this was worse than the Cooler Revenge of Cooler?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
100%.
And I was reading like that's the general consensus. Like most people,
100%. 150%. Yeah.
yeah, most people felt like this was worse. Um, so okay. Uh, actually, I don't know. Like for me personally, this one actually had a story there. All right, now hear me out, right? Because
Okay.
here's
Uh-huh.
Cooler, right? And we're like, I understand why you're saying like Android 13, or because the computer, right? Like there's
Yeah.
that computer, and
Uh-huh.
and this one there's like the big Getty star, uh,
And all
which
the robots that don't talk.
right. Okay, yep, and like yeah, I can see that parallel there, which is funny. Like this movie came out before that movie,
Yeah.
um, but but there was a there was the story of, I like that they still kind of tried to incorporate um Piccolo. I like that it wasn't like they didn't touch up on what happened, because that was my biggest thing, is like, are they gonna talk about how Cooler's still alive? Because that dude, he even said it, like he said he got disintegrated because he got blasted into the sun. So
Mm-hmm.
um I like that they touched up on that. Now whether that's a ridiculous way of like coming back to life, yeah, okay, I can give you that. um but I like that. Okay, I can see why like the squad would go out to fight Cooler, like because he's gonna take over. They don't know that it's Cooler, and they don't know what's going on in Namek. They just know something's going on in Namek, and I like
Yeah.
that they take Piccolo with them, and I like that Piccolo is still kind of tied to the movie, right? And he was a like the unsung hero of the first one, and so and in this one, like they're going to Namek, and Cooler is trying to take over the planet, and he's like taking over, and he's, it's very Disney-esque, like in the sense of it's not gruesome at all, but he is like oppressing the Namekians
Mm-hmm.
on New Namek. And so like, Piccolo feels or at least he feels a duty to go and help his people, his race. And so um I felt like this was a little bit, I can see the motivations behind like the squad going to Namek, as opposed to like Cooler going to fight Goku, like kill Goku in the first one, because he killed Frieza, who he doesn't even really care about, because like he doesn't want the lineage, or the Frieza, not the Frieza name, but their kind of lineage to be, run through the mud. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, I can get with this. I can get with this, dude. Um, so I got some notes here. I don't know if they answered how New Namek was formed. Do you know how New Namek was formed? Because that thing just came out of
No
nowhere,
clue.
bro.
Yeah, no clue. I think that they just said they had to find a new home, and I think that
They said, "Fuck it, we found one here."
Okay, we're gonna, and it's gonna look exactly like the
Yeah,
old
the
Namek.
same one.
So how lucky are we that we find a
Dude,
planet that looks like
we've
our
been
old planet?
exactly. We've been trying to find a new Earth for like God
Yeah,
knows how many years, and we can't find shit like that. Uh,
yeah.
another thing, dude. Are you gonna say something? What were you gonna say?
No, just keep going.
Okay,
What you trying to
is
add, and then I'll add to that.
okay. So Dende assembles this squad, right? Okay,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and they go off to Namek. I want to know why they took Oolong. All right.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes too. Like, why did we take Yajirobe and Master Roshi and
Hey,
Oolong?
hold up, dude. Hey, hold
Why did they
up,
take
bro.
all three of them? I love the fact that they make an early appearance, though. I love the fact that they were introduced to the film early.
Assets, though. Those are some assets.
Yeah, assets. So I thought their addition to the beginning of the film, I think that they figured out that maybe we want to see them, and it's better to show them earlier rather than later. And I thought that they came back. they circled back with them, so that was nice to see, because they added another element to the film that, you know, was funny. Like Yajirobe, I actually thought was really funny in this film.
Yeah, I mean, Yajirobe, like I said, he's always, and this was like a deadly trio. The only thing they needed was Hercule, and this, like, to me, if they could ever work it so they have like Jocko, Oolong, Yajirobe, Hercule, that's a very dangerous squad right there. Those are the dudes you want to be with, because you're gonna survive with them. Like with Goku and Vegeta, you might get killed. I was
Yeah.
seeing the tactics these men were using, and you know, it wasn't very strategically planned out when they went into battle. But
Yeah.
you know, that was the one thing I was just kind of like, all right, what are these guys gonna do? Like, they're not gonna provide any type of firepower. Like, even Roshi, like, his time has passed. Unfortunately, he was a beast, but he's no longer what he once was. Um, but yeah, man, that was a thing, right? Like, are they forcing these guys in here for some? Because, you know, Dragon Ball always has to have like that comedic relief, like a little bit of
Yeah,
humor.
yeah, yeah.
Is that what
Mhm.
these guys are, right? Like,
I mean, obviously, I mean, who else? I think at this point, Piccolo hadn't become a point
yeah, right.
of comedy. Gohan wasn't the point of comedy. Krillin wasn't the point of comedy. So it's like, I mean, Krillin, I guess, sort of, but because you can start to see him. I mean, I think Krillin has always kind of been like this, but well, at least in Dragon Ball Z, not in Dragon Ball. I think he was a little bit more serious, you know, in the earlier days, but now he's taking on a little bit more of a comedic relief. But I think they had to add that in there because they know. I think that they knew that this storyline. While I respect what you're saying about, like, I know that why they're there, it's super meta and it's super complicated in regards to, like, if you miss that one part, it is. I think you're lost. I think I felt myself lost in the film. I had to, because I was watching it with my wife, and my wife,
Okay.
she was actually paying attention to it, and she actually heard, and she was like, and then she kind of explained it back to me. So it's a really, I mean, while I respect Dragon Ball Z trying this, I will say this is a really risky like storyline in my opinion, because you're like, it's really Jesus-esque, or like really like creation-esque in regards to how the world was formed. So while I appreciate it was super, like, it was super fast and it was super meta, that it if you're not paying attention, you get lost. And to be honest with you, I'm like, what are we trying here with this one? Like, because if that was the case, I would have respected the storyline a little bit more if we would have just started there. If we would have just started there with like the chip, and just in case you don't know, for folks that haven't watched the movie, the main source of why Metal Cooler is back is because there was a chip in outer space that then became like a giant,
It
like, kind of
absorbed
like
a bunch of
consciousness.
mass. Yeah,
Yeah, so it kind of became like a consciousness, a center of
exactly.
consciousness, and then
Right.
Cooler kind of took over it, and then now he's,
Almost
you
like a
know,
god. Yeah.
yeah, almost like a guy, like a Jesus Christ type of deal, where, you know, he's even creating himself in the likeness of himself. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, it is I mean, I don't know if Jesus Christ is the main one, but, you know, he's essentially being able to create things like him, right? And this thing is giving him the power. So
Yeah.
it is,
Clones, exactly. Yeah, clones. Yep.
you know what I'm saying? So while I appreciate that arc, I think that they should have introduced that. Why didn't you just start there? If you knew it was going to be complicated, don't put it towards the middle end of the movie. Like, just start there, because then at least we get an idea, or at least tease it out in the beginning, right? Like, or maybe they did tease it and I didn't pay attention, but
Yeah,
like,
show like a shot where you see like a chip and it's starting to absorb a bunch of stuff. And then you're like, wait, what? What's going on here? And that maybe sets the table for, like, you know, how all this comes about. Something like that.
yeah, because it becomes really convoluted when he's trying to explain it. Like, to me, like,
Yeah.
it was super like, what are you talking about? Like a chip, and then it becomes this big thing, and then now all of a sudden you're it. And it took my wife to explain to me for me to understand it, because I was like, I don't know what the hell's happening. But
Well, what I like is how the directors, like the writers, they knew, I think, that when the the viewers watch this, they're gonna be like, how the hell is Cooler still alive?
Of course,
And
we all are wondering this.
yeah, and even Cooler says like, "You're right. I was completely disintegrated, and I shouldn't be here." I was like, dude,
Yeah.
that is
They
them saying
know.
like, yeah, like they know that this really really shouldn't be here. But I like the kind of, I appreciate I I don't know if creativity is the right word. At least it was an attempt at being creative of like keeping him alive, because um I was thinking like they were gonna show like, oh, he didn't really die, like he didn't really get disintegrated. He kind of, he survived by the skin of his teeth, like it just, he barely was able to get out of that blast or something like that. So
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate that. But you know, it's like at this point in the series, Krillin, you can start to see where his character is heading towards, because if not like, if he isn't already there, because like they bring him along and I don't think he's part of that the the comedy squad. I don't think he's
Yeah,
still
he's
part of
kind of
that.
in limbo. Yeah, he's
Right,
kind of in that limbo. Mhm.
right. And this is where they're like, okay, this marks his fate, because I see the man, he charges head on against one of these cyborgs,
Yeah.
and he even does like a powerful scream as he's charging towards them, and he gets obliterated with one hit. And that's when you can start to see they're like, oh, okay, this was gonna start, he's gonna join the oolongs of the Dragon Ball world, as opposed to like the Goku and Vegeta. And really, if you think about it, like all of them except for Goku and Vegeta transition towards that type of
To
role.
that oolong, yeah, to that
Yeah.
oolong, to that Master Roshi looking on the sideline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, dude.
that's true, man.
That's
Little did they
wild.
know what their fate lied in front of them.
Right,
Little did they
exactly.
know what's coming for them. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate where they've taken those characters. Because I agree with you. I even like Piccolo in this. Piccolo, again, badass. He doesn't talk much. He's just in there, just snapping necks, cashing checks. So
Um,
doing his thing, and Gohan just being a Gohan at this age doesn't
yeah,
really. He
he's
just
kind
gets in
of like,
trouble.
mhm. He's like yeah, he's an asset, but he's like,
Also,
he's like,
liability.
yeah, he's like the player on the team that's not the most skilled, but he works really hard and like, no,
You love using that guy. Like,
yeah.
it's like, how many of those guys do you know, man? They're
Dude,
just
because
the hard worker guys.
I've seen him, and like, I'm always like, damn, this dude, he doesn't have that much skill, but I respect the attitude. I always respect attitude, right? Like, I always respect that. Like, if you have that type of that mentality, I respect it. So, and I feel like that's what Gohan kind of is in this. Now, granted, he peaks in the Cell Saga, but yeah, he's not Krillin. Like, he isn't Krillin in this. Um, but yeah, he's kind of in that like, he's a 6.5 out of 10 type of character in terms of fighting.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, it's good to have him on our side, but yeah, is he really moving the needle for us? Maybe not that much. But you know what got me though was like, when the hell did Cooler learn instant transmission?
Oh my god. How ridiculous was that scene, dog? How ridiculous was that scene? It was like a 2 minutes of just them doing instant transmission. It was just ridiculous. I wrote that in my notes. I'm like, dog, what is happening right now in this film, dude? Like, how long are we gonna see this?
Dude, it was hilarious. And what's funny is like, Goku does it right to escape a hit, and he's like, Cooler's like, oh, what the hell? And or he's kind of caught off guard a little bit, and then Goku tells him, like, oh, it's it's instant transmission, and then Cooler goes, ah, yes, one of my favorite moves. And I'm like, dude, what the hell? You never used this in the first movie, and now he's just like spamming it. And what I like is the slow motion,
Oh, yeah.
like scenes, panels where
Uh-huh.
they're that's I think that's them showing them like in the instant transmission
Like,
movement.
yeah, hyper
Right, like
move universe
exactly.
type of deal. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when Vegeta comes in, and we'll get to Vegeta in a little bit, uh, he's like he can't keep up with that, you know, and he's getting
Yeah,
so
Vegeta's out
frustrated.
of his element right there. Yeah,
Right, yeah,
he's out of his element right there.
yeah, he was, you know, he went into the deep end a little too quick, and at one point he's just like, forget this, I'm blasting both of these guys because
Yeah,
part of him is like, not only can he not keep up, but he's also feeling a little bit humiliated.
yeah, a little insecure.
Right, and so
Yeah,
uh yeah, how'd you feel about that whole him knowing instant transmission? Just like,
dude,
now I'm
it
just
was
gonna
so
take this out of
ridiculous.
my back pocket.
It was so ridiculous. Like it was. What happened here? Like it's just
Like, when did he learn it?
what. When did he learn this? And that, you know what? I don't really have a problem with where did he learn it. I don't need to know where he learned it. Fine, I'll take it for face value. You know it. What I have a problem with is the fact that it was like a minute or a 2 minute scene where they are just dedicating showing off this new move. And
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, did they just like in Dragon Ball Z at this point in this film, did they just introduce this move or like why was this scene so long? Like
Yeah,
who
that's
thought this was a good idea to keep showing them do instant transmission over and over and over and over and over again? And then to eradicate that, like they completely eradicated it by showing the slow motion. Cause I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now we can see that what's happening in the instant transmission. Like, so what's the point of it? What's the point of you showing us?
yeah,
Might as well
well,
just fight in slow motion. So, or not take the slow motion. So, you know, I prefer if we're gonna do instant transmission, then don't show me the slow motion because the whole point of it is to go fast. So, to me, I don't really have a beef with him knowing it.
really?
Fine, I'll take it. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with him knowing it. Fine, you learn new skills. You don't need to tell me, but the execution of the showcase is what's important to me. And I was there just flabbergasted watching this scene because I'm like, this is a minute or two of just doing the same shit over and over again.
They were definitely instant transmission happy. I think when this movie came out, like Goku had just shown it to the, you know, he had just showed it off, and it was like the new move, and so they were just trying to toss it around everywhere. Like they even had, like in this case, Cooler knowing it, and then later on, what's his name, Cell knows it. You know what I'm saying? They're just like instant transmission happy, and they're just any chance they get, they're gonna show this thing off, and that's
Yeah.
how they were. But yeah, going back to Piccolo, yeah, I like Piccolo, man. I like how he feels like the most in this movie, and it's you really gotta squint to look for like deep characters. But I feel like Piccolo's always this, like you say, he's this badass. He's just a hard mother. Shut your mouth, and he doesn't show much emotion, right? Like if he does, it's like anger or he's maybe vengeful. But I like that they play on the whole. He has a connection to the Namekians, even though he's been away from them for so long.
Mhm.
And he has like this sense of duty towards them, and he goes off on his own, right? Like it all he comes in and he helps, but he's also on like his own little journey. And he was doing that throughout this movie. I felt like he did that a little bit in the other movie too, like even at the end of the first movie, Cooler's Revenge, when
Mhm.
they show that last scene of him and he's kind of gathering himself, and I think he's like splashing water on himself.
Mhm.
um you know, I like how there's kind of this side story here that's Piccolo's kind of, he lives in the human world now, but he still has a connection, no matter how long it's been, since he left Namek, to the Namekian people. And I kind of like that. You know, it shows he's got like a heart, even though he's this hard motherfucker. Like he cares for the Namekian people. And you know, you kind of see this like with some of these tough characters that they never show chinks in their armor, like Vegeta has that with Saiyans.
Mhm.
And that's the reason why he saves Goku, right? Like, because he doesn't want Goku to die. And I like how they do that with Piccolo. So yeah, I feel like Piccolo is a plus in
A
this
bright
movie.
star in this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure.
I agree with you. I mean, that's why I love Piccolo. You know what I'm saying? That's my guy. It's for this era right here is this is it right here for my
This is
guy.
his peak, right?
This is his peak, unfortunately, but yeah, I love that. You know, he's like he's with the oppressed people. He's the guardian of the oppressed people. You know, the Namekians, and he's always there fighting for him. And he's what I love about that piece that you just said is like you got to come back home, regardless of where you go. Going back home is where the truth is. And I think that I love that about him, that you know he's able to come back, and like how you said, he's able to come back and he's still connected to them, even though maybe he's been away, you know. And I
Yeah,
think that that's always an important part of life as well, right? To come back home, and home may be in a different place, but it's like you know where your home is, and you know who are the folks that raised you, who are the folks that around you that showed you the love that you need to keep going
right,
forward.
right.
And
And
he's constantly protecting that. And I mean, they've gone away from this storyline for sure, because
yeah, for sure.
now that you
Because
said that as a storyline, I'm like, where the hell does it end? Is this the end of it?
yeah, they just because like and even if he does never go back home, like he never loses that connection. Like if he doesn't go back to Namek, no matter how long he's been away from them, like he doesn't forget like that connection he has to the Namekian people. And like
Mhm.
you said, I think like it's good to have that. You know, it's great to have that, I think. And they play on it really well. Even him, like someone who sometimes he can sometimes he can come across as like not even carefree, but yeah, carefree. Like he doesn't really care about those around him, right? Like he doesn't come across as
Like
very
a stone
loving,
face.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So but that isn't the case. Like underneath his very like stoic and stone face demeanor, he has like he cares, um you know, for the people, for his loved ones, for his race, like for his world, both of his world, like the human world and the Namekian world. Like he is a loving character. It's just his demeanor is not that of like a Goku, you know. And I like that. I appreciate how they handle him. It's a shame, like you said, that he gets relegated in the later part of the series to become a babysitter, and they try to fit him in. Like you watch Super, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's in the tournament of power, but like we don't see how the man gets stronger. In reality, the man shouldn't be on that stage. All right.
Yeah, he
Okay.
shouldn't be there. No,
Right. So
there's a couple of folks on that team that shouldn't be there.
yeah, exactly. Like I wouldn't mind if they took the time to like develop him and show like you said, you referenced this in a few episodes a while back. Like if they shit, what did you say? Oh, if they did something like where he fused like with someone to become like a super Namekian or something like that, like
Yeah. Where
something
he
and
hits a
like
new level. Where he hits a
mhm,
new level. You
yeah,
know.
because like you can't have Goku and Ultra Instinct and then Piccolo right beside him and be like, oh yeah, Piccolo's gonna help right here. Nah, dude, he's not. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I yeah, it's Piccolo's a really cool character, and it's like they focus so much on Goku and Vegeta. I get it, like that's the character, those are the characters most people love, but I know that there are other characters that are loved by the fan base, and if you were to bring them back, like it would be a success, I think. So
I
like
think
Gohan.
anything right now that I think adds layers to a character, I think will work. Because
Yeah,
as of right now, Super is not adding any sort of like layers to any of their characters. So,
I
you know,
agree.
I think anything would be welcome. and I will say that like during this era, Piccolo I think is at his height because he's able to show emotion without having to be extroverted about it. I think
Yeah.
that that is what works in his favor. It is that he's silent, but we still know that he cares, and he'll go in there, you know, like a badass, and just like he got your back, you
Right.
know. And
Yeah.
and his archetype is like, you know, is just that silent like protector, which I
Hmm.
think works for Piccolo. I think that's why. I mean, that's why he's one of my favorite characters. You know what I'm saying? So he's just he's a he's a silent person that that I mean I can relate to, because I'm very silent. I'm very quiet in many ways,
Hmm.
and I like to think. And I think Piccolo's a thinker. I think he's like it's almost like a master in many ways of like just thought, and he's able to fight strategically, and he's able to, you know, it's kind of like that general that just kind of, he doesn't have to be Mr. Kamehameha and to do all
Right.
these things. He just knows how to, you know, like he figured out how to destroy the robots, right? He's like, you
Yep.
got to hit him here and you got to do this here, and
Exactly.
he figured that out within the battle.
Hmm.
So it tells us how intelligent he is within battle.
Yep.
And but I'm gonna switch gears here a little bit, because that's how you do it well.
Okay.
The silent like enforcer.
Okay.
Cooler, in the other hand, I think is the way you do it wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Okay.
that's the way you completely mishandle a silent enforcer. Like last film, he barely talked, so he let
Right.
his good talk, right? He barely talked. We barely got a fucking word out of this guy into the last 5-10 minutes, and we're supposed to believe him. He doesn't do shit. So then this movie, the way they handled it, they're like, okay, well, instead of having his minions talk, well, why don't we just give him silent minions? So
Right.
then now he's the only voice. And
Hmm.
when you hear that voice, it's ridiculous. Like
It
he's just like,
doesn't do
he
anything.
comes to a point in the film, one kick, that he tells us, yes, I shouldn't be alive. And then he then goes on and tells us that even though even though we know that he shouldn't be alive, he's not going to get into the explanation. I'm like, oh, what did we do with this man right now? Like, that is your time to explain. What are you talking about? Why did the writers do that to him? Like, they should have, it's just explain it. I don't care how convoluted it is. Just get it out the way in the beginning, because they waited all the way into the very end, and it's like, again, we don't want to know that. I'm curious as to what the hell the Spaghetti Star is at this point. You're talking about it like we know. Like he's talking about like all these things like that we're supposed to somehow know. And I'm like, I don't know why you're here in front of him. Like, you know what I'm saying? And why are you metal? You're not explaining any of this. And you had the chance, and he's literally tells us, I choose not to explain.
Yeah, and I felt like the way they handled Cooler in this one, they tried to give him a little more like spice to his character. The way Frieza has spice, he comes on the screen and he's always got like a one-liner that would just, you know, it'll make you chuckle, like it'll bring out a laugh, and you know, like that's he almost had like a Cell type of vibe to me. Cooler did, and that's not how he was portrayed in the first one. Like in the first one, he was super bland. Even, you know, he was just, I'm here, I'm going to destroy you, I'm the strongest in the universe. That's literally how he sounds, right?
Yeah.
And you can't now try to be like, oh no, this dude actually has, you know, he's actually a little more, he's got a little more sauce to him now. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't, bro. And
he doesn't,
you know,
no.
like, okay, if he's gonna be this assassin, like you said, like a Piccolo is on a smaller scale, then he has to be that type of assassin. Like, he's cold-blooded, he's ruthless, he doesn't care. He's not here to drop jokes on you and be like, oh yes, I know instant transmission also, it's one of my favorite moves. Like, nah, dude. All right, you just bust it out, you do it, and then you destroy Goku. But I felt like they know Frieza works. That's like but the thing is, like, the characters have to be unique, and Frieza's very unique in that regard. And if, like, it'll feel like a carbon copy, like yeah, like I told you last week, the whole Mom, can we have Frieza at home? We have Frieza.
Yeah.
Or no, Mom, can we have Frieza? We have
Cooler.
Frieza at home. Frieza at home is cooler. That's kind of how it felt like.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
the
so
generic brand.
generic.
Okay.
Yeah, the generic, the off-brand. Yeah.
The off-brand, you know, they're trying to have him be Captain Charisma when he's not Captain
He's
Charisma.
not at all, dude. Okay, he's supposed to be. That's what makes him different than Frieza. I feel like is him being a more stoic type of character, and like you said, you have different archetypes, and if don't try to change that man's. You haven't really with any other character, at least not that I could think of. Everyone has their type of, like we said, archetype. Don't try to change it. Don't go away from the silent, granted, bland character that Cooler was in the first one to a now a little more charismatic type of character. Like, he is what he is, and try like you said, they did a good job with Piccolo, but they don't with Cooler. And and I think also what helps us feel that way about Piccolo is that Piccolo has a legitimate story you can believe, where with
they
like
dedicated a whole arc to him,
right?
you know?
Yeah. And with Cooler, it's like, all right, you guys are making this shit up. Like,
yeah. It feels forced, you know what I'm saying?
It
Like, it feels
definitely
forced.
does.
It
It
feels
definitely
forced.
does.
Like they're trying to just make a second Frieza, and
yeah,
that
exactly.
is like they put the setting there. He looks like him. The last form. They're trying to have him be a little bit spicy and a little bit like Frieza. So it's just there's nothing unique there for Cooler. So I think I would say Cooler has been doomed from the start, because they're like, we don't know how else to portray somebody from the Frieza family, and the only way is the way that it works. So let's just do this. And I even thought the fighting was lazy in this one. Like, I thought the way he fought was lazy. I'm like, oh, Goku's moves? Okay, cool. And they throw a blast at you and you can just recharge or you can just reform. I'm like, dude,
that's very Piccolo-esque. That's very Namekian-esque.
I hate that, dude. I hate the when the villain can just like regenerate, and it's just like, how does this machine regenerate? Like,
right.
I understand that like it can create multiple, but I'm like, well, why didn't you just create multiple from the beginning?
Well, you don't need multiple. You could just have one. If you could always come back, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could regenerate. And
dude.
They call that plot armor in the anime business. Like,
plot armor?
Yeah, like, hey, how the hell did you live this? It's like, it's plot armor. The dude has to for the plot. Like, they don't have a logical reason. It's just plot.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Yajirobe is a big talking point. I like that he made an appearance. Anytime Yajirobe's on, he makes me laugh. He's that's my guy. I feel like they've done such a good job of like attaching him to sensu beans. I don't know if it's even a good job. It's just a job. He's the sensu bean guy, and they literally reference that when they're in the pod, like in the spaceship, and Master Roshi, I think it is, or Oolong, they're like, what do they say? They say something about like, why didn't you bring did you bring the sensu bean? Something like that. So they know, like, for whatever reason, he carries a sword, but it's never gonna get used. It's been used, right?
Yeah, he got it there just in case.
Just in case.
And even when just in case comes up, he doesn't use it.
And he is the most, like, out of every character I've seen besides Oolong, he's the most unintimidating, unthreatening character in this series. Like, the way he's shaped, all right, I don't know how the man, when they go to the sauna or whatever, like, or when they go to the hot springs, and everyone's got to get naked, because you got to get naked at those things. and that man's
Yeah.
rolling around, and like you got Goku, Vegeta, like all these dudes, and then here you go. You know what I'm saying? Like I give him, he gotta have supreme confidence, dude.
Of course. That's the boy. I don't think if Yajirobe really cared about his body image, I think he would have done something by now. And I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
you gotta respect that he just accepts who he is, and he's just like, this is my body, and I like to eat sensu beans, and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, it just is
Yup.
what it is.
And he's, what I like is how he he has like, he's dressed not like, I don't know, maybe a samurai, I guess you could say. But then when those cyborgs are gonna attack, he's hiding behind Oolong, hoping that Master Roshin can take them on. And and of course they get captured because they're just, they're assets. They're assets.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. I like Yajirobe. I wish they would incorporate him more into the series. Like I know he just, apparently he died. Like not no, he didn't really die, dude. I'm like, where the hell is he in Super? I know he comes out in the Trunks arc, but it's just like they just forgot about that dude. They literally forgot about him. You know, at least like Hercule, at least Piccolo, you know, Krillin, they're still in. They have a story. Yajirobe's just gone. You know, they're like, whatever.
Yeah, Oolong as well, right? Like Oolong doesn't.
Yeah, I don't ever see Oolong either. That's another thing. Anyways, not Oolong. I was gonna say, like, how is that man a pig? Like, we're not gonna question this, but I mean, you see a lot of different types of species in the Dragon Ball world, so I won't question.
You know, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the I think that's one of the shining stars of the film is that the you know, just the highlighting of Yajirobe and Oolong, and I think that they, you know, they got their little role and they kill it every time. Consistency, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna deliver.
You know what you're gonna get with those three. You know, and I don't really like Master Roshi. I think this movie is the one that kind of like, yeah, I don't really like him as much as I like Yajirobe and Oolong. So
yeah, he doesn't have the same.
Funny.
Right, because he doesn't have the same, because you know, like Yajirobe and Oolong, they're not fighters. Like they're gonna get killed. They know that. They have that Hercule-esque type of, you know, character, but they're gonna survive, and that's what I respect about them. And they're gonna survive in their way. But you know what I got for you, dude? Actually, I have a little Dragon Ball Z Cooler's Return trivia for you. For the Return of Cooler. And so I was like, I'm gonna pull this up right now one time. Let me see. All right, so the first trivia point, something I didn't know, but this was actually Vegeta's first appearance in the movies. I guess it's just a sequence of how the movies were made, but and looking back at it, it kind of does make sense, because I think out of the movies we've watched, like Lord Slug, that was, you know, an older movie. Cooler's Revenge, the Bardock special, like you can see this is Vegeta's first appearance. I have to say, I think it's the kind of Vegeta we expect, I'm pretty sure when people saw that on the screen for the first time, they got hyped. Now,
of course.
Yep. And it was better. Like, you know, if I compare this to freaking Android 13, you know, like the Android 13 movie. Jesus Christ. It was a good entrance, but like no point of him being in that.
I thought that was what? A good entrance. He was in a glacier.
Yeah, but like aesthetically it looked pleasing. Maybe it doesn't make sense. He was in a glacier, in an ice glacier, and I don't know how he got in there. But I felt like at least, you know, it was okay. It was decent. But you know, the actual him being involved, it was like, I don't know. We talked about that movie. It wasn't like, you know, it's not up there as far as like best movies we've seen.
But you liked the way he was you know.
Yeah, in this movie?
Hmm.
Mm,
Like Vegeta.
I felt like it was consistent. It was consistent. They didn't stray away from at least with Cooler, like we said, they jumped around, but with Vegeta, with like these, it was consistent. And he came in out of nowhere. He came in out of nowhere. Let's be frank. Apparently, he decided to get on the pod also, which is cool because it shows like he also cares. Um, but my God, Goku's neck gets crushed, dude. Like his Adam's apple
Oh
gets
yeah, I saw
destroyed.
that. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like how
yeah,
is he able to talk after that? Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, Vegeta, like I said, 6.5 out of 10 in terms of like character involvement. Good. Like I kind of found it a little funny when they were when he was like getting frustrated that he couldn't keep up with the instant transmission, and he was just like, I'm gonna blast these guys. um you know they kind of tried to like give him the win, like, because they say, oh, if it wasn't for you like cutting off the arm, we wouldn't be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel too extreme one way or another. It's just 6.5 out of 10, C plus, B minus type of thing. Nothing crazy. Why would I know that's one of your guys, so I don't know, how'd you feel?
I thought it was pretty forgettable, to be honest with you. I didn't really like the fighting in this film, so I that's what he's in there for, and I didn't think it was that good. So I think it was not that. I mean, I could see why it would be hype for it to come in, but yeah, I thought it just doesn't make a good combination, like, for me. Like, if the villain doesn't have like a fighting style that I think engages me, then I'm
Like
just
a
kind of like,
Janemba type
okay.
of thing.
Yeah, like Janemba has an engaging way to fight. I would even say like the way that even on a smaller scale, like the minions from Lord Slug, that one dude with the arms, like,
Yeah.
if they don't have like a fighting style that's like unique, other than just like what Cooler's doing here, where you just blast him and then he just regenerates, like, to me, I'm like, well, then that's not really fighting back.
That's just being
And
OP.
while I appreciate that Vegeta on this film, I think it's one of the only films where I feel like he feels like he's almost on level with Goku.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost at that same level as him. There's just that little bit of a difference, and you can kind of feel it in the film. But other than that, I'm like, I don't know. If he had a better villain, I think my biggest beef with the movie is that I don't really like the villain, and I think the villain is the biggest hole here. So even if Vegeta's is his first appearance, like, if the villain's not doing it for me in regards to fighting, and Vegeta usually just comes in for fighting, then it just doesn't land with me. So.
That's true. Now that you say that, Vegeta literally just comes in to fight. Like, there's
That's
never
it. He doesn't do anything else.
Right?
No, he doesn't do anything else. So if the villain is not, interesting or anything, then what's the point of Vegeta's fighting other than taking Goku to the next level? Which I do like though about the film is that it didn't take Goku; it took both of them, to destroy. Which I also have a problem with, but I like the fact that both of them were able to take him out, where it's not just Goku. They're not going out of their way to. I think this is at the point of Dragon Ball Z where they're like, okay, Vegeta is growing in popularity. Let's keep him at the same level, like, let's keep him right now. Yeah, let's try to see what happens if Goku's not the main guy that kills him, right? What if it's possible that Goku's not the one to end it? So I do like it, but this is just.
And then they were
the
like,
way they destroyed it was just ridiculousnous.
When he was absorbing all the energy and ended up being too much for him.
Yeah, dude, so my wife and I were watching it, right? And then so she actually kind of got into it a little bit because she was like, oh, this is like a cool like piece about the chip, and it was like a Genesis type of story type of deal, with the beginning and stuff. And they're both like, almost like getting crucified. That's the way it looked like to me. You know, they're both like being held down by these things. And then she's like, "Oh man, I wonder how they're gonna get out of this." I wasn't even
Right.
looking at the screen. I wasn't even looking at the screen, and I'm like, they're probably gonna like it. It's probably like he's gonna try to absorb the energy, and it's just gonna be too much. And he's gonna explode.
Oh shit! When you can
And I didn't
tell
even,
what's gonna
I didn't even,
happen,
I didn't even like look at the screen. And she's like, "Really? Like, how do you know that?" And I'm like, "Cause I know these films. I know what I'm looking at right now. Like, I know it's a really cool story, and they're just gonna just go out through the back door because they got
right.
nothing else of how to actually get out of it."
They ran out of ideas. They're like, we got to this point. Shit, how do we get out of this now?
And that's my problem with a story like this. It's like, it's a dope story, but the way you get out of it is in your typical form. And it's like, no, dude, like, you are talking about a machine with consciousness that is elaborate and created its own planet. Somehow
Right.
these two men have enough energy to destroy like this thing.
Something
Is like,
that's
come
so
on,
powerful, but they couldn't handle cooler.
exactly. And
You
that's
know?
what I'm saying. So it's just, you know, so when I think about that, it's predictable to
Right.
me. I mean, maybe my word should have been predictable, but it's like, it was so predictable at the end that I'm like, this is ridiculous.
All right. I see the movie went from bad to worse for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Sure.
here's another little trivia I got for you. So, the reason why I said Jedi is because this movie actually took inspiration from the Star Wars series.
No.
Yeah, it did.
No.
It did.
For real?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell.
So, oh, I was like, nah, this fool, nah, for real. No, I know. Okay, you're being sarcastic. But nah. So here's one of the things, right? When Piccolo flies into the Big Getty Star to rescue the Z Warriors, the entrance resembles the Stargate sequence from the 2001 A Space Odyssey movie. Shortly after, he appears in a room similar to the Death Star 2 core from the Star Wars 6 Return of the Jedi. And then there's another one here. When a small robot on the Big Getty Star grabs Yajirobe after Z Warriors are captured, it quotes the same line as the medical droid administrator to R2D2 within Jawa's Sandcrawler in Star Wars 4 A New Hope. Now, I don't know much about Star Wars, but I just found like is kind of cool, kind of like, does that show like, okay, did you do this because like you maybe you thought it'd be interesting for it to have like some type of resemblance to Star Wars, or did you not have any ideas and you were like, oh, okay, we're gonna make this kind of have that Star Wars feel? You know what I'm saying?
There's just a lot of biting in this movie, dude. A lot of biting in this movie.
Okay,
now that you're telling me this, it's even more like, okay, yeah, I'm out of this fucking movie. Yep, even more so. I don't care how cool of a reference that is in regards to Star Wars. To me, even less credit to them, because I'm like, wow, like you took their story and it still didn't still ate shit in my opinion. So.
All right. I thought it would be cool.
Yeah, it makes no. I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's fine if you're a Star Wars fan and you love Dragon Ball Z as well. Then I'm sure it's a really cool thing. I see some of it now, even the way that the star looks like, and blah blah blah. But not impressed. Dragon Ball.
Well, that was the trivia I had. I thought it would be cool, something a little different. But now we get to to hear what the people have to say. All right.
What do people have to say about this film?
Okay, so
I'm interested. Is the delusion still at an all-time high at this film?
Okay, so yes, it is. Because here's the thing.
I gotta give it to us. In this fan base. We gotta love it. We gotta love the delusion sometimes.
Okay, so this is the one that I found was very critical. This one didn't have as many reviews as the Revenge of Cooler, but this one here was somewhat. This isn't even really critical. It's like kind of tiptoeing around being critical, like walking on eggshells. But it says, I really like the first Cooler movie, but this one is a bit iffy. I don't know if this is. I don't know about this. Oh, yeah, they say you. Oh my God. They say they should make. So this is a theme. So this reviewer says movie's a little bit iffy. They like the first one. They don't know about this one, and then ends it with make Cooler canon. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of these reviews. So here's another one, dude. You're gonna love these reviews. Okay, this movie is great, and I love how the ideas are presented. And then they like how Cooler survives and has a huge army with him. Love this movie. Really wish it was canon. A must watch for Dragon Ball fans. You will absolutely love it. And the list goes on. One of the best. This guy right here, he went really elaborate. Dude, this movie's great.
This movie's great.
Yeah, so he really reached down the down the
bag to get that out.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this guy at least here was honest. He's like, I'm the first to review this, but this isn't really a review, and he just gave it a big thumbs up. And then this one dude here who's just as confused as maybe anyone who has not seen the first one, he puts, who the heck is Cooler? So it's funny, like when you look at the ratings aren't great. They're not, at least compared to the Revenge of Cooler. This one's got like 7 out of 10. The other one was consistently like 8, high 8s, mid 8s. So, I gotta be honest. Okay, the movie, for me, I'm not as critical as you are with it. Like,
you loved it.
We're gonna. Oh, I didn't love it, dude. But we're gonna get into the ratings.
You loved it.
It's okay, man.
You loved it.
We're gonna get into the ratings.
It's okay.
Get into the ratings. But I'm not saying be critical for the sake of being critical, because then you're gonna get toxic. I'm saying like be critical where being like, if you really feel that the movie is subpar, because that keeps the creators honest, like that keeps them on their toes. Because if you're just gonna accept like what they throw out, then they're not gonna have an incentive to put out a better product, right? It's just gonna be like, oh, okay, well, we can half-ass it. And then as time goes on, there's like a natural human tendency to like start putting less and less effort into something if people are just going to accept low effort stuff. So if you love the movie, totally fine. But I have seen a theme with all of these movies, including Android 13, where it was ridiculous reviews. Everything was great and they loved it. And listen, it's subjective, but as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution was, I feel like if it was animated, you know what I'm saying, and they tweaked it a little bit, it would get better reviews, because at the very least they had like a kind of somewhat of a story there. Goku trying to assimilate to the real world, like, it could be in the Dragon Ball, it's obviously in the Dragon Ball context, like something there. But obviously it's live action and that stuff, like it's hard to like really capture animated sequences in like live action films. But like I'm seeing a lot of just, I don't know, man, people loving it, dude, loving it. You throw it out there, they love it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on the fan base, because you know what, it is what it is. I think the Dragon Ball fan base is real. I think they're really critical about what goes on in the series, and I think that they've dug themselves into that hole where people have invested a lot of time or a lot of emotion into characters. So when you see something, it's just like, come on, guys, let's make Piccolo great again.
Right.
Let's give Gohan something to do. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they are critical. I think what we see in these films though is that, you know, we're also looking at it, you know, 20 years removed, you know, so
Yep.
like, you know, it's like 15 years removed from watching the film. So I'm sure that when folks saw this, they're like, wow, this is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
especially during a time where we didn't have the internet and you didn't have to go on and read the reviews, or you had access to it on the internet. You probably had it on like VHS, and it was like, oh, this is like my own special like thing that not everybody has, right? Because it's like most of us only saw the series on TV, at least for me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say that, like, I only saw it on TV, so I'm sure that there was like a cool element to like, oh, I got this like VHS that, you know, barely anybody has. Like, come over and watch the Cooler's Revenge movie. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not everybody has that. You get to watch TV, but I get to watch the film that, you know, I have. So I'm sure that there's a little bit of
There's a little bit
in
of
that.
that, yeah. And if you were to compare this maybe to like a regular episode in the Dragon Ball series, it's probably, I mean, some people would say this could be better than like maybe a regular episode in one of the Dragon Ball Z, you know, episodes. Like, you know, it's the standard has certainly gotten higher, I think, like amongst like what we look for. So like you said, this, you know, you have to remember this is 20 years ago that this movie was made. And I remember watching this movie at you know, Silv's house. I went to Silverback's house, and he was like, "Hey, dude, come in." And he was like, "I just got it." I was like, "What'd you just get?" It's a big old cassette. You remember those things? You open it like this, like you and throw that thing into the VHS. And we watched it there, dude. And I was getting like, I remember I was getting invested in it, and I was like, "No way!" I got
is that the
pissed
day when he tried to turn Super Saiyan?
Oh nah.
That's another day.
Dude, that was wild. I mean, he knows this story. We were in the backyard. We always played soccer in the backyard, and one day he just throws the ball, and he's like, he's had enough of this, and he starts like powering up, but he's not really powering up, obviously, because you're not gonna power up. And he asks me what his power level is, and what's more like, I mean, that's him though. He doesn't give a flip, right? His mom like sees him because the window, they had a window in front of their sink, and she was in the kitchen, and she's washing the dishes, and she sees this man like, she's like, "What's happening to my son?" And he's like screaming, and she goes, "Gordo," right? That's what she called him. She was like, and then he's like, "Mom," right? Because she interrupted his power up. And we go inside because he didn't want his mom interrupting him. And he goes into the room, and he continues to power up. And you know, and I was like, "Shit, dude, you're getting pretty strong," right? Like, 'cause I didn't know what to do at that point.
You're just gassing them up. You're just
yeah, dude. You're almost there, bro. You know, you're almost there. And that's how the first mortal human was able to transform into a Super Saiyan. So that's the story behind that boy.
But and just to tie it back to what we were just talking about, it's like, but it's to that level of people loving this series that get the reviews that you get, because people love it so much that it makes sense to me why we don't find, at least in my opinion, honest reviews about what we're seeing. Some people attempt to try to give honest reviews, but there's a lot of attachment to the series, you know, like we don't want to talk bad about it, you know. I think
sure.
that reflects in the reviews that we see, because it's like, you know, I don't want to talk bad about, you know, something that I grew up
You love
loving,
and
or
shaped your childhood.
nostalgic. Yeah, so it makes sense to me. At the same time, here at this podcast, we try to keep it, you know, honest,
100. Yep.
Truthful. So
exactly. I don't know, dude. I feel honestly, I'm putting money on this. I think the series, when it comes back, it's gonna be good. I think it got a lot of criticism because of how, one, the animation was, how flat the story was, and I feel like Broly they had to do it, within like a year. They had to develop a story, and it was all they did it pretty quickly while still running the super series. And it was, well, we'll get into the Broly movie soon, but I think for Dragon Ball standards, it wasn't terrible. And I feel like that's kind of the first step to going into the right direction. But it's been a good episode, dude. It's been a good episode. I want to hear your personal review. Give it to me.
Man, I'm kind of torn right now. I'm in between a 1 and a 2.
Nah, this ain't that, bro.
That's what this is. I guarantee you that's what this is. That is what this movie is. It is a 1 or a 2.
Bro.
It is a 1 or a 2.
I won't accept
in my book.
Dude.
I'm between a 1 and a 2, and the only reason that I probably maybe will give this a 2 is because I really liked Piccolo, and I like Yajirobe and Oolong's appearance in this, and that's about it. That's the only saving grace for me in this film.
Tell me. I know that they didn't flesh out the story enough, but there was something there. You feel me?
They never actualized it, and they never actualized it. Even if something was there, they never actualized it. Cooler is boring. Let's just call it what it is. He's not Frieza. They're trying to make him like Frieza. I thought the fighting was lazy. I thought the story was convoluted. What else? They thought they fought on a Namek planet that they didn't even get. They called it New Namek.
Yeah,
they didn't even get creative with the name.
They definitely didn't.
Let's just call it what it is. This was a lazy film. This was not a film. The reason that story sounds creative is because they stole it from somebody else. Now that you told me this,
wait, no. The story. I don't know if the story was stolen. I just know that there were bits and pieces that, there were. They tied it back to Star Wars.
From what I saw in Star Wars, I mean, I'm not saying that, it's like a Genesis story, but, there is a sense of that feeling. So, there is a similar story in that story. I know that. There's something in, I mean, a lot of stories have that, So it's not something creative. I mean, they could have just stolen this from the Bible. Like, it's just the reality of it. Like, so I think this movie's lazy. Cooler is boring. He didn't add nothing, and now you're getting me amped up, and I'm pushing this button. This movie's a 1 for me.
No,
I got amped up right now, and I think that my passionate rant right now to what you just pushed me towards. Yeah, I'm a 1 now. I think the only saving grace here is Oolong and Piccolo and Yajirobe.
Oh wow. Okay.
This is the bottom.
No, dude, I can't accept. I won't stand for it, dude. The slander. Okay, so to me, I'm ashamed that my co-host has put this next to the Android 13 movie. Okay, now you gave where it belongs. You gave your reasons. Now I'm gonna give my reasons to why this is a 4 out of 7. Okay.
Oh wow! What a jump!
Okay, because one, granted, I'm not a big Star Wars guy, so I can only take it at face value. I like that the story was a little bit deeper here than it was in the first one. Point number 1. Okay. Number 2, of course, I like the side characters like Yajirobe, Oolong, and Piccolo. Well, I don't know if Piccolo's a side. Yeah, he's a side character. I love Piccolo. Like, I love Piccolo in this movie. I think, in these last 2 movies, this was his peak. And I really enjoyed his character. I like the animation. It gave me like a vintage feel. It felt fluid. Granted, it wasn't the most creative, but I like the animation. And there was a scene in the movie right at the end where Vegeta's in his pod and he's going back to Earth, and he has the chip in his hand and he's looking at it almost as if he's pondering, like, what could it be? And then he crushes it, right? To be like, nah, And I was just like, was that because they didn't have to put that there. I mean, the movie was basically over. And I was like, was that him like thinking, what if, right? Like, what if I went down this road? And then he puts that to rest. So that's why this movie, it is definitely a must watch if you're a Dragon Ball fan.
Oh my god.
This is a 4 out of 7, all right?
Oh
It
my
is,
God.
dude.
A must watch.
That's
a little hyperbolic, man. How must watch,
dude.
Come on.
If you watch the first one, you have to watch this one. If you watch the Cooler's Revenge, you have to watch this one.
No, you don't.
Yes,
no,
you
you
do.
don't, dude. The Cooler ends at the first one. This is a ridiculous reincarnation.
Anyways, this is a good episode. Good way to start the 2021 year. You know, so we got a few things planned for 2021. Hopefully by the grace of God they come to fruition. You know, we're gonna wrap it up, so we're gonna leave all our Twitter handles, you know, down in the description. Everything you need to know down in the YouTube description. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram. If you listen to us on Apple, make sure to give us a review. You can listen to us on all the podcast platforms. But with that, we're gonna head out. Shuwin, do you have any last words?
Our next movie is BoJack. So if you want to watch the films with us, just know that that's the next movie.
All right, so I'm excited to see that one. That's actually, from what I remember, now granted, this was a few years ago, this is one of the movies I enjoyed the most, but I am a little fuzzy on it. So I hope it doesn't disappoint me, and I hope it lives up to expectations, because I've been talking this movie up a lot. So yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and log off. You know, Happy New Year, and thank you guys.